We've had the league stage, we've had qualifier number one. Now we come to a moment of reckoning. Finally, a game that the team that wins progresses, the team that loses packs their bags and departs from the tournament. That's what's at stake here, and that's what we're looking forward to from the desert, from Sharjah. It's Bangalore versus Kolkata in the Eliminator. And the winner of this match will go on to play the loser of the qualifier, which of course is Delhi, sitting and waiting for their second bite of the cherry to hit the final on October the 15th. That's where it's happened. Delhi versus Chennai. Chennai win, go straight to the final. Delhi lose and wait for the winner of today's game. And the winner of that meets Chennai in the final on the 15th. Here we are to look forward to what promises to be a fascinating encounter on Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11th Circle. And I'm delighted to be in the very colorful company, every pun intended, with fabulous backgrounds of Ajay Jadeja and Michael Vaughan. Michael, oh, that depth. We just want to all be there and join you for some refreshments.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Yeah, there's plenty of refreshments behind me. I must explain that this is at the bar for not the kids, but my kind of young 18-year-old daughter and her friends. I kind of look at those bottles behind me, and every now and again I'll have a sniff, but not for me. I just like an old-fashioned pint of ale.
Ajay, masala chai keeping you going?
Green tea.
Green tea, it's got to be even more new age.
Masala chai is too much of hard work. This is a simpler thing. Just dip it in. It's a pleasure to be with both of you this evening.
Let me start with you, Michael. I mean, we're looking at two teams very contrasting in nature, in a sense, on various fronts. One is, of course, Kolkata have been veterans of this particular surface. Bangalore haven't. Kolkata have won titles. Bangalore looking for their first one. So it's sort of been a nice little contrast even before a ball is bowled.
Yeah, I mean, two huge franchises. You mentioned it in your opener about a must-win game. You have a 5-over period in a T20 game, and it can be the difference between winning and losing. When you're in the group stages, you always know you've got another game. You always know you'll have another opportunity. KKR found rhythm and form, particularly in the UAE. They struggled in the first part of the IPL in India, and all of a sudden, they just started to get the right combinations. I really enjoy that combination of Owen Morgan and Baz McCullum as captain coach. I think the both of them will send the positive message to the KKR team. But, I always enjoy all franchise tournaments around the world when we get to this stage where, you just know that one individual can produce a piece of magic, a piece of mastery with the ball, a 30-ball innings with the bat that can change the context of the game. And both teams know that to win 3 games on the trot to win the IPL from this stage on will take some doing. But you've got to just get after that first hurdle today, which is a big opportunity for both sides, because you feel that whoever wins today obviously goes through having won, plays a Delhi team that's just lost yesterday. So the momentum will be with the side that wins today.
Well, interesting little twist. These two teams, we often give you a bit of a head-to-head, a history, who's done well in the playoffs against each other. Remember, we talked about Chennai versus Delhi in playoffs. They've played a lot against each other. These two teams, Ajay, have never met in a playoff before. That makes it even more spicy.
Yeah, and that also tells you what's probably going through in their minds as well. It's a road that they've never traveled. It's a road that they wanted to travel. They all want to do well. I think RCB still had probably more games. KKR on the other side, in fact, when they did travel that road, they went all the way and won it. But in those, the years of IPL, these two teams probably haven't been the most consistent ones, and that's why they haven't got to enough playoff games, and they haven't had a go at each other. I'm looking forward. I mean, look at it. Look at this game. I mean, you've got Virat Kohli and his big money ball, not money ball, the big guys on one side, Big Show, and everybody on one side. AB de Villiers in that side. You got Maxwell in that side. The Patikals finding his own form. Then you've got the lucky charm of Daniel Christian. Let's see what he does. And on the other side, you don't have those big names, but you've got a side that's put together a kind of play that others still haven't figured out. And those two mystery spinners have been the key to that. and Ian Morgan's been playing with both of them so beautifully. So it is a cat and mouse game that you probably have today. I don't know who's the cat in this case, but certainly more wily team in that side in this game today would be KKR. So I'm looking forward to how they play this game. As Michael said, this is not a league phase where you're trying things or you're trying to put a way that you want to play cricket. But at the moment, it's not how you want to play, it's how you win a game. So it'll be interesting to see whether they stick to their plans or not.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned two bits of contrast, Michael, to you, the surface and the history. There's a third, which is more imminent. In this half of the league, Kolkata went from 2-5 to 5-2 from first half to second half. Bangalore pretty much did just the opposite. They were top of the tree when they came in for the second half, thinking they'd ride into the playoffs. They took the sort of long route and fixed things later. So in a sense, there'll be different mindsets walking into a knockout game.
Yeah, but when you get to the stage of knockout, it's purely about which group of players can assess the conditions quickly. We've seen throughout the UAE stage of the IPL that pitches have varied. There've been some good ones, there's been some indifferent ones. I think when you get to a knockout stage, you arrive in Sharjah, and I believe it's quite a sheen. It's a pitch that looks very good, and it really is down to the teams and the players who can assess those conditions quickly. Is it going to be a 180 plus pitch, or is it going to be where you're competitive with 150? And that's when cricket smart comes into play, and then also assessing which bowlers are going to be more effective quickly on this service and which aren't. In Owen Morgan, he's a tremendous captain. He really is strategically very, very clever. With the bat in hand, he's done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing with the bat in hand. But strategically with Baz McCullum, I think they'll be quite a smart team. I think they'll not be scared. I don't think the KKR players will be anyway fearful of this situation, because Owen Morgan is all about managing these kind of situations with his teams, of just allowing his players to go and express themselves, but also playing a smart fashion. The RCB team under Virat, you're always a little bit wary of the way that they're going to play. But as Ajay said, the actual match winners, when you look at it on paper, the majority of them are with the challengers. The Bangalore team has just gotten a massive names, and that obviously includes Patel and Chahal with the ball, have been magnificent. But with the bat in hand, you could say that all of the top five are match winners in their own right. So I would put them as favourites on paper, but as we've known through the history of all sports, nothing is ever won on paper. It's all about who can read the situation.
Yeah, and you looked down that list, you saw big names like Kyle Jamieson, not just in size, but in terms of being able to contribute. Tim David, impact player, can't make it into the 11. Two other names missing, Dushmanta Chamira and Vanindu Hasaranga, have been released to go and join the Sri Lanka squad. They've been put out of their misery. We were often talking on our show, when are they going to get Hasaranga in? The answer is not this season. Ajay, one last point. I remember the first time ever, on a personal note, that I saw you bat up close live in an international match was in Sharjah. Very different sort of Sharjah from 1994. But this pitch, how much can it possibly change from the start of this half of the season, from being a 140 pitch? Can it really turn into a 180?
Oh, certainly it can. I mean, if you watch, and you have, this is just for the viewers. Over the years, if you look at Sharjah, the basic has always been that high scoring game. But I remember many years, I think year 99, in fact, England was there that year. England, India and Pakistan playing. And the winning totals were about 180, 210, 220. And that's the difference. You don't see, the only difference, I keep saying, it's only about whether it's looking whiter to you, it is brighter as a batsman. When it gets darker, that's when it's trouble. And not just with that, I think there's another big change that you saw this year with Sharjah as well, is the outfield. And they play that with a lot as well. The outfields, you've seen outside edges. In fact, even with seamers not ending up at the boundary. So it's not just the pitch, even the outfield. And at times when you turn up, you go there for league games, you have a certain kind of a ground and a pitch. Suddenly you go there, it's shinier, it's harder. As you said, 94 was one of those beautiful wickets. And the grass off the wicket, not off the wicket, but the outfield is also shaved off. Suddenly that changes the whole game. And it's not just the number of runs. I felt there were tournaments in Sharjah where you had many run outs. and that had a lot to do with the outfield. Because as a batsman, you're used to grounds around the world. You play a ball, your mind tells you, oh, there's a single there, because you imagine an angle that a fielder would get to it. But the whole angle changes because that ball's not traveling at that pace. So, until you watch, a few overs in Sharjah, I'm still hoping that, we'll see that whitish one, and that, the outfield is much quicker. Then the game changes. Then it goes from the game that we've been watching all along. Same players, same conditions. You'll find a whole different set of skills that would be required then.
Well, Matty Hayden seemed to suggest at his pitch report that there are more runs on this surface. Team winning the toss might want to bat first and sort of just pile on the runs and put the pressure on in a knockout game. And that's exactly what's happened. Virat Kohli has won the toss, decided they will bat first. And Michael, I guess that is an indication that they feel that there are runs on the board. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken this call.
No, I mean, a lot of T20 captains around the world, they don't mind chasing. But when you get to this stage and it's a must-win game, I'm still in the school of thought, if you can get the opportunity to bat first on a good pitch, just get the runs on the board and offer that pressure of the chase. Even if you bat 20% short, I still think, when you're chasing any kind of target, it can get quite tricky. But with that batting lineup, you must fancy that you can get to par and beyond. With Virat Kohli, you're looking at Padikkal, who's up at the top of the order. He's played nicely. But with Maxwell and de Villiers, who manoeuvred their positions in the last game, and Maxwell became the finisher just below AB de Villiers. But you look at those three who are world class, and you must fancy at least one of them. One of them will have a day out. And if you get two of them, well, they're going to get a big, big score. And that's why they're such a formidable side. KKR, and I know Harry Morgan, he'll just dangle the carrot. He'll just try and dangle the carrot and try and play the pressure card. He won't mind chasing. He's always fancied chasing for England. And with KKR, he'll certainly have the right mindset. But, batting first on a decent pitch with that RCB batting lineup, I think that's quite a big play.
And
in
the
game.
reason we've shown you the two lineups so quickly, Ajay, is because both teams have gone in unchanged. And that's probably a representation of the confidence they've got coming into these playoffs, not wanting to tinker, and also a reflection that a certain Andre Russell is not yet fit.
Yeah, I mean, Andre Russell, any team would miss, but or even if you're a KKR fan and a diehard fan of Andre Russell, what you've seen from your team, I don't think you'd miss him much. This year, it's his batting that you always thought of, but he added with his bowling in this IPL till he got injured. And ever since then, I don't think the team's actually missed him in his batting for sure. Maybe his bowling, the kind of bowling or the role that he was playing, you'd probably missed him. But no surprises there. What surprises me most is Virat Kohli, ever since he's announced that he's not going to be leading ever again this RCB team or India in this format, has suddenly changed his attitude to captaincy, and he sticks to the guys that he plays with, which is definitely a change and has worked for them.
Yes, it promises to be a feisty encounter. We're all going to have a bit of a party watching it and soaking it up. But we're not the only ones. I'm a little bit envious because there's going to be a few people who have sneaked out to a very similar setting to what Michael Vaughan has in his backyard. And it's going to be match party. But to get in there, you have to actually subscribe to Cricbuzz Plus and join in the fun. It was great fun on day one in the first of the qualifiers, and they just wanted to continue the party. Joy Bhattacharya, Manish Patavia, Sayami and company are going to be rocking it up out there. For those of you who like to party but also like to do a little hard work just before the game, yes, it means you're choosing your teams. It's not the Morgans and Kohlis who have all the hard work. You've got to do it yourselves. Pick a full 11. You've got to pick a full 11. No responsibility. You can't shirk it. You can't say, I'm not going to be captain anymore. You are the captain. You're the boss. You're the manager of your team. Get on the site. Download the app. Pick your 11. Pick a captain. 1 crore is your prize money at the end of it. That's the first prize. So let's get straight to business, Michael. We like to give a little bit of help to all these lovely people who are playing on their My 11 Circle teams with our smart picks. So let's quickly go and show you what our smart picks are. Couple in purple, one in red. Michael Lockie Ferguson, the other day we saw him out with injury for a few games. And the moment he came back in, Kolkata said, wow, we've been missing you, Lockie.
Yeah, I mean, he's high class. He's not just got the pace. He's got that ability to bowl the slow balls at the right time, change his angles. The Sharjah wicket, if it's kind of similar to the pitches that we've seen, have not had a great deal of bounce. So his kind of skiddy pace could be quite difficult to hit. Whatever the format Lockie Ferguson plays, I think all captains use him as that wicket-taking option. So he always generally bowls when the skipper desperately needs a wicket. The Kiwis, they're doing something right. You only have to look at the amount of coaches that have got the IPL sides to this stage of the tournament. There's Stephen Fleming, there's Hesson, and obviously there's now Baz McCullum. And they've got some wonderful cricketers that they've developed over the years. And Lockie Ferguson is right up there with one of the reasons why New Zealand are a high-class cricket side. He's not just quick, and he's got a smart cricket brain. I think that's one of the things I'll say about New Zealand players. They generally are a smart cricketing nation. They maximise every ounce of ability that they have by playing it very smartly. And Lockie is certainly one of those cricketers.
Now, number 2 we have in our list, also from the Kolkata side, is Shakib Al Hasan. The one thing you'd want, if you're picking him, of course, is him to get a little bit more game time, Ajay. He got the 1 over last time around. He's batting far down the order. Really, as an experienced, probably number 1 all-round in the world for so long, you'd want him in the game a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the way KKR used, where you're probably looking at points from him only while he's bowling, because it definitely looks like whoever's picked these 3, it's a KKR win kind of a thing. You got Bharat coming up. So if these 2 do well, then, Shakib, you don't want him to get too many points with your batting, but he's capable of doing that. You rightly said, one of the finest all-rounders that goes around the world. And he knows his game, he understands. So he's always in the game, but how you use him it depends a lot. I mean, we saw him bowl the first over in that last game. So was it an attacking first over that he was bowled, or was it thinking, this is our 5th bowler, let's get through him? So in either case, if he does well, he can give you points with batting, bowling, and is a pretty good fielder as well. And if the first 2 get going, then KKR should, be on the winning side.
The only difference was he bowled the first over and didn't come back to bowl again. Brilliant first over, picks up a wicket, impact, next over, Sunil Narayan. Let me just show you everything that I have straight up off the bat. Now, before coming to our 3rd smart pick, Michael, just want to pick your brain on this one. Owen Morgan suggested that the toss would be redundant because they wanted to bowl first. Is that just putting on a brave face, or do you think he's honest and he speaks his mind?
Oh, you never know with Owen Morgan. He does like to play a few mind games. That's why he's such a good leader. He likes to send messages to his team that it's irrelevant what happens at the toss. He does like chasing. He does like his teams to chase down targets. So, he's probably speaking the truth on this occasion, but there has been times in the past where Owen said things at the toss, which is just to try and convince his team that anything is possible. He'll be fine. He knows it's 40 over of a contest. The pitch, it doesn't generally change that much. But what RCB can do is force the issue with a big score, and then chasing a big score can be very difficult, but it can also be quite difficult to set that score. If they lose 2 or 3 early wickets, which can happen, then you get into that position of what's a par score and can you get something near it. Owen Morgan is a master with the mind. That's why he's a great captain.
I'll stay with you, Michael. Our 3rd My 11 Circle smart pick has really been a surprise package for the boys from Bangalore. They didn't quite know what to do with that number 3 slot. With Virat opening, Padikkal as his opening partner, Maxwell and de Villiers coming later down, they needed something in the middle and they found him from nowhere.
Yeah, particularly in the last game, he's been fantastic. I can find them a number 3 if they want me to find them one. You got Glenn Maxwell or AB de Villiers come back number 3. They're pretty good. So I do think they've tinkered with the batting lineup to try and get AB de Villiers at 4 and 5, and sometimes AB de Villiers is coming at number 6. I'm a bit old school with 120 balls. That if you've got the 3 real quality players in Virat Kohli, AB de Villiers, and Glenn Maxwell, surely you'd want the majority of those balls to be played out by those 3 players. But Barrett played nicely in the last innings. The one thing with Padikkal and Barrett at 2 and 3. They're probably just given a license. They're probably just told, just go out and play. And if the opposition see one of those 2 come off, knowing that the likes of Maxwell and AB de Villiers are still to come, it can send a few shivers through the opposing team. But also, I would think the opposing team would prefer AB de Villiers and Glenn Maxwell still to be sat in the dugout when balls are getting chewed up and only a few overs left, and still AB de Villiers has not been out there, because both Maxwell and AB de Villiers and Virat Kohli are players that could get 100 in T20 cricket. So for that reason, I would be pushing them all up the order to try and get as many balls into them as possible.
Yeah, I think Kolkata fans would be hoping that they sit in the dugout as long as possible. It happened early on when they first had Shikhar Bharat playing up the order. He was striking at about 90 or 100, and then he's improved with every game. But speaking of Bharat, speaking of Maxwell, de Villiers, Kohli and company, we thought we'd do our new segment that we started in the last game, our strengths and weakness analysis. And we'll start with the Bangalore side. Let me quickly put that up for you. Strengths, and this is what we've looked at, a lot of them, and we felt the 7 match winners. We briefly alluded to that. Maxwell's record against spin, bowling in the middle overs, that's where they've been so impactful against teams. And of course, what never used to be their strength now can be listed there as the death bowling. 4 weaknesses: strike rate of the openers sometimes can be a little bit slow. Kohli's not been in great form. ABD, where should he be batting? The long tail and the lack of power play wickets. Ajay, strengths, let me get you to focus on any one of them for the moment.
Yeah, I think death bowling strength, as you said, has really changed for RCB, and I don't think it's the team that's changed. It's the bowler that you're probably using from one end for sure. You've got 3 overs post over number 12 from Harshal Patel, and the kind of bowling or the skills that he has are totally suited for that kind of a game where batsman's looking for something and then suddenly that slow one comes in, and his slow one has a special ability that really dips. So I think that has made the difference to that one. From weakness, it's gone to strength from there. And those numbers were just there as proof to just tell you that how effective Harshal Patel has been. I mean, it's the number of wickets you've seen, he's leading, all that. But what has impressed me is that, there are a lot of people bowling slow ones in this tournament. A lot of them are trying to take the pace away. But he's actually, when he bowls that one, it's almost like, traditional old off spinners used to bowl when you feel that the ball's coming to you, but it actually is on a string and it's just pulled back. He's almost capable of doing that. And that is what has probably helped RCB become, from weakness, it's turned into their strength.
One weakness for the Bangalore side, and Michael, you've already sort of mentioned it, but you can elaborate on it slightly. When we said, where are they going to get number 3 from? And you said, well, I can find them one. Don't have to look too far. Sitting in the dugout. AB de Villiers in particular, somebody who we remember a time when Kohli and de Villiers used to have those big partnerships together. The only reason it happened was because de Villiers walked in to join Kohli. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like beware, because he's not had a huge amount of effect so far in the IPL. And, with world-class performers, they generally like the big stage, and there's no bigger stage than what the RCB team are up against over the next few days. They've got to win 3 games on the trot. To do that, you would probably think that ABD is going to have one of those incredible innings that we've seen so many times in the past. I do think one of the weaknesses that wasn't on that screen that I'd throw in there is that the fact they've never won it. The fact that they don't know how to get over the line. Virat Kohli's yet to win that elusive IPL title as a captain. And it's, as I said, in the group stages, when you've got so many games, it's quite easy because you always get another opportunity. Now it's a must win. You have to get your team in the right mindset. You have to get your tactics spot on. As a captain, 1 or 2 tactical errors or manoeuvres that don't quite go the way that you would expect can be the difference between winning and losing. And can you send your players out with that freedom and that smile that we've seen the RCB team playing with, where they've just been able to go out there and play, enjoy the cricket? Can they enjoy the cricket still in a must-win encounter? We'll know over the next few hours, because I'll know that Owen Morgan will certainly be able to drive that mindset through his team. It's just whether his team are good enough. Because on paper, as we've said before, the RCB team, those 7 match winners, you'd have to say KKR probably have 2 or 3, in terms of the real high-class individuals. But what KKR will deliver as a team, they'll play collectively very strong. But when you look at that team, you must be in the opposing dressing room fearful of many of them, because you just know that 10-over burst of Virat, a 10-over burst of AB, a 10-over burst of Glenn Maxwell, a brilliant spell by Patel, a brilliant spell by Chahal. That can be the difference in view, getting nowhere close to them. So it's intriguing to see the mindset of both teams today.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay with Michael for a second, Ajay, and I'll come to you on that. Just this mindset, and I'm glad you brought it up. For a team that has never won the title, what is it that you need to change in your mindset to be able to tell your team we can do it? I remember a few years ago, I was having a discussion when Leicester City were on the verge of possibly winning the Premiership title. And someone asked me, do you think they're going to go and win? And I said, I don't feel they're going to win because they've never won before. They're going to see that finish line and they'll be fearful of it. I was proven wrong, but they obviously did something right to prove me and many other people wrong.
Yeah, and what they did right and what the RCB team have to continue doing is what they've done already. You know, they've played some good cricket. They've managed to win some close games. They've managed to get individual players playing to a high standard. They've managed to get the best out of Glenn Maxwell. You know, it's the first franchise in the IPL that he's really looked like he's settled and he looks like he belongs in that franchise. So clearly behind the scenes in terms of Virat's leadership and Mike Hesson in particular, I think they've got the best out of Glenn Maxwell. You know, it's easy for us to sit here and say what they have to do. They've just got to continue to go through the processes of what they've done so far. They've done everything so far to a good standard. And if they play like that once again, you'd have to say it'd be very, very difficult for the KKR side. If RCB play to their level, I think they win today. But what KKR will try and do is try and get them below that level and try and almost throw the spanner in the works of Virat. You've never won it. You know, how are you going to cope with the pressure? And you should be winning it with all these superstars in your team. How can you not win this IPL championship before? Because you should have done. And I'm sure KKR will be throwing that into the kind of system out in the middle today. But, you know, they've just got to do what they've done before and hope that it works over the course of the next few hours.
They really have been the glamour side. I mean, if you look at the history of this tournament, yeah, maybe they had a few so-called test players in season one. But otherwise, overall, Bangalore, the city that it is, the players they've had, a lot of neutrals. If they've just landed from Mars after so many years of the tournament, they'd wonder, oh, they've never won a tournament before?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that side and Virat and AB de Villiers been with them throughout, I mean, in the last 10 years, at least you think, you know, once Virat came in, and became Virat Kohli that he is. No, he was there from year one. He was an under-19 kid when he came in. And AB de Villiers was already AB de Villiers, and you expected what? And the other players around him. I mean, there was a period where you had Chris Gale with them as well. So three of them were in there, and you saw a different RCB side then. But these two have been there all throughout. And you'd wonder, you know, how can you not win a tournament? From the other side, when you look at it, all that it teaches you is that, you know, to win tournaments, you need to have 5 good bowlers, because as batsman Michael would know very well, no matter how good you are you may be the best in the world. Even the best in the world probably do it every 3-4 innings. Nobody ever does it every inning. But if you're the best bowler in the world, you go out there and do it day in and day out. Because what you do as a bowler is only an action, you know, and how somebody plays might, you know, reflect on the scorecard, and you may look at it, you've had a good day or a bad day. So, and I think that is probably the only change that you see this time, that the bowling looks a lot more settled, and they've trusted their bowlers with the skills that they have. The batsmen have gone about doing their job, and they've had a bonus of Glenn Maxwell. So, you know, if you've come back from many years and you come back to see RCB, you expected them to win 10 years ago when Gale, AB de Villiers and Kohli were batting. You expect them to win even today with AB de Villiers and Kohli and Maxwell batting. But if they win today, at least, now that they've, you know, won the toss or lost the toss, but they're batting first, whatever score that they score, they'll have to go out there and defend. So, I mean, from a Calcutta's point of view, I'm not complaining. I think Calcutta, you know, probably would be happier. And that is what Calcutta needs to look at there. Look at that side and say, everybody that we feared would be over and done through halfway. Then we got to deal with, you know, very little, you know, style of play. And that is what I think RCB has missed throughout. And I hope that's not the case today again.
Well, I can see we've got our 2 experts who've got a foot in different camps, which is good. We like to take sides without necessarily taking sides. But a good point you made, and we'll finish off with Bangalore with this particular point. is the improvement in the bowling, and there's numbers to prove it. And the numbers really show up in the middle order bowling. I think what we've seen overall is restricting teams scoring in that critical phase. Yes, you can get off to a great start if you don't consolidate that start, and sometimes the opposition bowling doesn't let you do that. And this is what they've done in overs 7 to 15. And I think one of the chief architects for that, picking up wickets, making sure they don't go run away, is Yuzvendra Chahal, Michael.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's been changed yet, but he's not in the Indian T20 World Cup squad, which I find remarkable when you think where the World Cup's going to be played. It's the key, isn't it, in T20 cricket, is those wickets around that 7 to 15. Most teams, they're still trying to score at a high rate, but quite a lot of teams kind of just manoeuvre the ball into gaps, and if they go, and hit the ball for around eight runs and over, they're quite happy, and they leave the real power till the last 5 overs. So if you can get key wickets and key players who are set around that period, it goes a long way to you winning the game. And Chahal's been doing that so regularly. As soon as the 7th over comes, Virat throws in the ball and says, go on, get a couple of wickets, kind of restrict the opposition, and he's managed to do that consistently. So I'm with Ajay. We always talk about the three big names, but you can't win T20 tournaments without having bowling. You have to have bowling. You have to have bowling that get you out of trouble. So if they don't get the big score, and it's only a par score or just below, you're going to have to throw the ball to the likes of Patel, Chahal to get you out of a hole. And there will be a time today where the pressure's really on, and it always is the bowlers. Most teams around the world that win big tournaments, you always look to really good death bowlers. Patel's been outstanding, and you need a real high-class spinner. Chahal's been outstanding. So that's why I think the RCB team, as much as that kind of trio has played okay, and particularly Maxwell, it's been the bowling that's got them to this stage so far.
Let's look at Kolkata, Ajay, since you're leaning that way. We'll just pretend the shelf behind you is purple and it's not yellow.
Oh, it's yellow.
It's yellow.
It's yellow and blue. My teams are yellow and blue. Yes, let's go.
Fair enough. We already have mentioned the UAE momentum, 2 and 5 to start with, 5 and 2 after that. So they're on a roll. The middle overs batting, middle overs bowling as well, a little similar to Bangalore, as well as the death bowling. But I think overall, Ajay, the bowling itself is something that's been their key. They're bowling first today. They've got the 2 mystery spinners. They've got Shakib Al Hasan to back them up. And someone like Shivam Mavi suddenly has emerged as a match winner on his own.
Yeah, and the names that you gave, when they come on to bowl, what do you see the difference? I like Prasidh Krishna as well. And he had a role to play when it all started, him and Russell. The changes, Mavi's come in, has taken over from there. So when you got Lockie Ferguson coming, he's looking for wickets all the time. Both the mystery spinners that you talked about, they're not, trying to play those restrictive roles alone. They're smarter guys, they understand, and they're used differently by Ian Morgan. So you've got, 3 of the 5 only looking to command the game, not bring the game back. Whereas with, RCB, you see Chahal comes into game only after 6 overs is done. So whatever's happened, he's only trying to either, pull it back or, things are going wrong. So you don't get the best out of them. Whereas with Calcutta, what you seeing is these 2 mystery spinners, you're getting the best out of them. And with Lockie Ferguson, and Mavi plays his role, then it's all perfect for them. So, and that is why you have what your list showed. You bowl well in the middle. You don't have to bowl well at the back, because eventually, even if the opposition has had a great start, but you pull it back in the middle, at the end, they're already struggling. So that middle phase of bowling is what really makes a difference. And I feel middle stage, whether 7 to 11, 12, 13, no matter who's batting, it's somehow the approach of batsmen is such that they stop looking for boundaries. And suddenly they say, oh, we've got a great start, let's hold back. Exactly what Delhi did last night. They got off to such a great start. They send in Akshar Patel to do what? Play 10 balls. You want your best players to get those 10 balls in that stage, and then they can go out there and finish it. When you try and play these, matchup games, where if the opposition plays as well as they can, then the matchup doesn't work. So, KKR has played matchup, but I think they've played matchup pure cricket. They haven't changed personnel. They've asked them to play differently in different games. And that is how their bowling has probably been the most effective.
Something tells me, Michael, that Bangalore definitely won't pull off a Delhi. They're not going to be sending someone to consolidate. Something also tells me in that 7 to 15 phase, one man who's likely to be there at the crease, I mean, things could change, is Glenn Maxwell. And him against the spinners, that could be quite the matchup that'll almost determine where this innings goes.
Yeah, and I'll guarantee that Glenn Maxwell, when he first goes out there, will be facing Lockie Ferguson, because that's exactly what Owen Morgan will do. He'll save Lockie Ferguson for potentially Glenn Maxwell, because he knows that Glenn Maxwell's such a good striker of spinners, not so good against the real quality quicks. Owen Morgan himself, I wouldn't be surprised if Chahal comes in the 7th. I wouldn't be surprised if Morgan sends himself in as a left-hander to hit the leg spinner. He's got such a good record of doing that. But fundamentally, I'm with Ajay. The more you try to tinker, the more you confuse the issue. The more you start to overcomplicate the game. Yes, it's a complex game, cricket. There's many scenarios and many changes that you can happen. But generally, teams that stay consistent and get players playing those roles consistently are the teams that win major tournaments. And those that tinker all the time and manoeuvre players here, there and everywhere, they're almost searching for the right solution. So I'll wait and see how much tinkering happens today. But with both sides to have got to this to this stage so far, they've both played great cricket, both got players in form. It really it comes down to the day. It comes down to which individuals can stick their hands up and do something magic for the team.
Fascinating. You can talk about all the numbers. Ajay, go ahead.
We're talking about Maxwell. So I just have a feel, because when you watch Maxwell, he's done exceptionally well. Everything's been bowled away from him. These two don't bowl outside the wicket. He scored most of his runs on the offside, whether it's the reverse sweep or when he gets that room. So I don't feel that Maxwell would be as successful against these two today that you've seen him in the tournament, if that's the key for you.
Yeah, well, the only place with this bowling that Glenn Maxwell is going to get a room is if he checks into a hotel. Terrible, terrible pun to finish with, but we live with that for now. But let me try and digress from that awful humor and get Joy Bhattacharya involved with his joy factor question. As I said, he's not with us on the show because he's busy partying on the match party. Just in case you haven't joined, it started at 7:15. It is our new feature on Cricbuzz Plus. Joy factor question. Only 4 Indian cricketers have achieved this particular landmark. The son of the first played for Kolkata. The fourth is currently in an Indian T20 League franchise, and you've seen the second on Cricbuzz. Who is the third, and what did they achieve? You've got to read that question about 6 times, but don't worry, you can find it on the website. Look at it, read it, digest it, figure out what it is. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Send us the answer as quickly as possible, and we'll get Joy in the middle of his party to tell us what's right, what's wrong. Predictions for the score. This is the spicy part of our show. Man who has won the toss has decided to bat first. We think it's a higher scoring pitch. Do you agree with Matthew Hayden, Michael Vaughan?
Yeah, I'm going to go 172.
172, that's a healthy total. That's kind of what we were expecting from Delhi yesterday. That's sort of around what they did get. Ajay, higher than that or more conservative?
Higher. If they need to win, I would go, because let me go higher. We're all playing blind, aren't we?
We're doing an auction. Do I hear 180? Do I hear 185? 190?
Oh, 185.
185. Wow, I could be a good auctioneer. I thought he'd stick at 180, but he's taken 185. You've taken 172. I'm trusting the Kolkata spinners. You'll get a good total, but not quite that much. 164. And then it'll be a real competitive score. 164, 172, 185, all to play for. And Shakib Al Hasan has been handed the first over. Something tells me he might get more than one today. Bangalore batting first after winning the toss. That's all we have on this show. 10th over will be Cricbuzz Combox. And of course, we'll see you for much more on our mid-show on Cricbuzz Live in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle.